I got to just comment on MrBeast. The other thing that he does that's brilliant is he keeps you watching till the end.
Yeah.
Like, stay tuned to the end where we do the giveaway. He's got this big reveal. The other thing that MrBeast does that I think most people don't recognize is he's distributing not just in English. So you might see 400 million views, 250 million views on a video, but that's just in English. He's producing in, I want to say 50 different languages.
Yeah.
So it's that times X, which, you know, I think for the average creator is maybe not going to happen. But that's, I think, a big part of the brilliance. You know, it's funny we talk about YouTube because I really think that a lot of people are underestimating it. I've been in podcasting just about 5 years now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of this old school mentality that people don't listen to podcasts on YouTube. What are you people talking about?
What are you talking about?
In fact, leading up this event, so we left the Vault conference. You and I were talking, we're thinking big. And I want to have the go-to studio in South Florida. I want people to be like, okay, I'm flying in. I got to stop by the Savant studio. I got to be there. I got to record. That's the vision. And so one of the steps to get there is starting recording more content in person, which is exactly what we're doing here, by the way. You'll notice this is a different studio. I connected with my man, Jeremy Norfus, down here in South Florida. But I'm looking at all these studios and they're all recording on iPhones, dude. I'm like, how can I be serious about recording for YouTube if I'm recording on an iPhone? And you know what I was told is, well, people don't listen to podcasts on YouTube. People don't consume that. Is that heresy? Is that lunacy?
It's just wrong. It's just completely wrong, because there's different elements as to why, you know, Pat scaled the operation the way that he did, with that I saw being on the you know, working with Patrick for almost a year and 8 months, close to 2 years. So about a year and 8 months working with VT, mostly on the consulting and business side. And I'm so grateful. I can't even tell you how grateful I am to Pat for taking me under his wing and teaching me a lot, and grateful to the whole company, everybody involved. I love them very much. I'm the biggest fan. My bag is VT. My hat is VT. I mean, shouts out to those people because they're the best people I ever met in media, right? And they're doing big, big things. But part of the reason why is that a lot of people, when they're making content, don't realizing that they're following in the footsteps of just the old media companies. So you have this decentralization of media that occurs as we can pick up our phones and cameras get better. And then people just try to hop into content and they think they can do it like that. But this is nothing new, right? This is just a shift in the paradigm. But when you go to New York, like I did, you know, growing up, my uncle was a big movie critic out in Hollywood, produced Chicago Today, graduated Northwestern University, started their whole journalistic program, started their news program. He was my idol growing up. I don't even know if he knows that, but he was my idol growing up. And we were on news sets with him, and he had his own TV show in Miami before it shifted to Telemundo, and he kind of got kicked out. And also was out in LA. So when I was 10, I met Adam Sandler, Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, because he was interviewing him for their movies at the time, and he was doing all this cool creative stuff. But because I got to see that, and because I went to New York with my family quite often, I saw Fox Studio, I saw CNN Studio, I saw all these major studios in New York, you know, right by Rockefeller Center. They'll blow you away. If you try to approach it in a different manner besides that, you don't look professional. You don't have an appeal. Part of people's psychology is the reason why they have those big studios is to show that the content that you're putting out is valid and that it has funding and that you're smart. So if you try to go into a podcast studio and it's based off phones, and the audio isn't great and the visual isn't great, nobody's going to take you seriously. You know, that's why so much should be invested into the set. If you have the money and you want to start media and you want to start your own content, invest in a set. I've mad respect for a guy from the VT network, Paul Galashkin. He's working on his content, coming up with better topics. But the one thing that this guy did first was buy a set and build it. He's a big, big, big real estate guy out in California. Him and his wife are awesome. They were at the Vault. But he invested a lot of money into the set day one. He's got like a PBD style set in his home. It's unbelievable.
But you know, I don't think that's enough. Spotify just canceled Michelle Obama. They just canceled Harry and Meghan. I mean, these are $100 million deals, and they're just like, it's not working.
Yep.
It's not working. So I think about what's the differentiator, because you're seeing the smaller type studios. Like, I don't want to call Pat Studio small, but he started small. He started just in his office.
Started in Boca. Well, started in LA, in Dallas, right? in Dallas, maybe some when he was in LA out at the time, then did a lot of work in Dallas, built the studio out with the big Hulk and all that stuff in the background, made it look super sick. And then they actually had somewhat of a downsizing of the studio size when they moved to Boca. And that's when you see some of those earlier PBD podcast episodes. That's when he shifted from doing a lot of sit-down interviews, which was what made his style particularly different. You weren't watching a podcast. It was an interview. It was a Walter Cronkite. It was a 60 Minutes style show where you sat one person down. There wasn't so much discussion. It was drill. It was boom, question, boom, question, boom, question. So his style was a little different. But when they shifted to Boca, the studio, yeah, it was fine. Nothing compared to when they moved to Fort Lauderdale and built that out. I was in that studio when there was nothing in it. And they built it in, I would say 3 or 4 days. They had the whole studio built in a bank vault, and it was so impressive. And now his production facility in Fort Lauderdale, if you get the chance to go to this thing, you should. I mean, he's doing shows there. He's doing cool events. You know, the tickets are pretty affordable, and the production facility there is something that you need to see. It is so freaking cool.
It's really dope. I was at the Vivek Ramaswamy event a couple months ago. I was at the Dave Rubin Giuliani event a few months ago also. It's really impressive. And I like we said in the car, I'm going to be in the VIP next time because you get the cigar lounge access.
Yeah, the boardroom cigar lounge. That's so cool.
It's really interesting to me. I'm reading through Blue Ocean Strategy because it just kept being talked about at the Vault event. And it was sitting on my shelf. I just never had a chance to open it up. And so this is the thing that I'm thinking about as well. What makes me different? Because quite frankly, there's a lot of people that are trying to copy this model.
Yeah.
In-person recording. What's Rogan doing? And I think there needs to be a passion behind it. You need to be actually excited about it, passionate about it. You're not just going to throw $50 million and have a show as we just discussed with Spotify's dilemma there. But I'm thinking about like, what's new? What's next? Is it adding some sort of blockchain? Is it adding, some sort of NFTs? I know y'all NFTs are a bad word. We're not allowed to talk about NFTs, but I think they still play a part. Virtual reality. Is there a virtual reality? Is there augmented reality? Is tech the way to go? Is it the cigar lounge in the back where you get to sit with a presidential candidate? Like, what is that blue ocean strategy look like? How do you differentiate not just on the quality of the production or the quality of the guests, but on a completely different axis that hasn't been explored yet?
Yeah. So really crafting an interesting narrative is important. So like you said these examples of people trying to launch really big podcasts that may have been in other spaces in media or been in limelight. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have a cool story. And a lot of people in traditional media that were used to being in front of the limelight cued with cards and told what to say, they don't really know how to convey themselves in an open format environment. And Joe was really, Joe Rogan was the one that really started a lot of this, sitting people down and showing a different side of them when the cameras were on and you just had to have a conversation. For some people, it's, not the best idea to go out and tell everything or talk about your life, especially in those circles, because you actually don't want to. So they have to stay limited in what they can share. And that I feel like really, really relays over on the content and people feel it disingenuous and don't want to watch. I think podcasting is all about, ingenuity and being genuine with people. And Pat's both of those. He's always looking to the next biggest thing. And he's a very genuine person. So is Joe. So that, and look at Tim Dillon's podcast, for instance. In the comedy world in podcasting, it's very different. You have to be genuine. It doesn't even necessarily, if you're off with some of your comments, it's not like a PC culture in media anymore. So sometimes when you go a little bit more out there, it actually works for you. And as far as these other things like AI integration and all of that, I think as long as it helps you cultivate and establish a better community of people, you see like we were talking the boardroom and the event that Pat just threw, the town hall. It's all about cultivating a community that can then get invested in knowing who you are and become part of that network. So as a suggestion for you, right, the next level would be, okay, you go out there, you do the podcast, then you do a live one. That's why Sauce is live. That's why PBD Podcast is live. They do those live events every once in a while. So you can build those people in your community that follow you on Instagram and social media platforms. They get to meet you. They get to know it because it's all about, being genuine. They get to see if you're the real deal or not. Are you the guy that they know on camera? And this is not something that people in old media were used to. The people of the old day, George Clooney and Johnny Depp, they never had to have their real person examined or met live. And everybody's searching for truth nowadays, and everybody's searching for genuine people. They don't want fake anymore. So those are good ideas to have, like, so people can get to know you more.
You have to, it's scary. you got to be able to take the risk. You got to be willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
I've started doing an income report every month. I'm
Yep.
talking about how much should I make? How much should I spend? What did I learn? Where were the failures? I'm being open about my marriage.
Yep.
Which, but people are like, Mark, are you crazy? And because I'll talk openly about, my wife and I, we have a counselor or coach who helped us work through communication issues. And listen, and I said, listen, I know everybody's marriage is perfect and everyone is on cloud nine and everything works out. But I can tell you, I strongly encourage everyone out there, get someone who can play middleman in the marriage. And I don't mean middleman like, hey, can you fill in for me tonight?
Yeah, not that.
No, don't do that.
It's a horrible idea.
I know Destiny does that. Don't do that. What you need to do is have someone that can tell your wife when she's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm always right in the relationship. I need someone to be like, you know what, Joanna, Mark is right. You need to pay attention more. No, I'm half kidding there. But having someone in the middle who can help you kind of witness your weak points is really important. And again, going back to the topic here, I think if you want to be successful in the industry, you need to be open. You need to be willing to say stuff that other people aren't willing to say. And it's funny, my parents listen to the show sometimes, and they'll be like, Mark, how are you talking about this publicly? I think it's a shift. It's a complete shift in the way that we interact with our audience, the way we connect more deeply with our audience.
You're seeing the same push in politics. So I feel that you'll find that the podcast shift and the media shift also will go along with the political shift that you see. And politicians nowadays that are held more accountable, that are more genuine in their message, that are less, rehearsed, they've been doing pretty well. And this is on both sides. I'm not picking a side here at all. But on both sides, if you're more genuine about your message and really care about what you think and are more open about your family and more open about your taxes and more open about how you go day to day and you share that on a podcast platform. Look at RFK, for instance. His media push has been insane. His adoption has been insane. Vivek's the same way. Their adoption has been insane because they're showing who they are on social media platforms. So,
well, the other thing that's interesting that I noticed that they're doing that other people aren't doing, like, DeSantis, Biden, they're going on podcasts.
Yeah.
They're on podcasts everywhere. They're not going on traditional media. I mean, maybe a little bit, but they're going on podcast tours, which I think is an interesting shift. People are going to wake up to that.
And this is real data that I'm about to share, and I can't necessarily share where I got it, but the data showed through political polling, through a consulting agency that I've worked with before, that all new media about where people get their information on where to vote, even on a local level, is all done through podcasts, online. No longer, it showed the data, the actual data, 5% here, 12% here, that the shift is going from older people are still picking up the newspaper. They're still picking up, turning on the TV. But as you go younger and younger, past the age of let's say 35 and below, from the top down, dude, I mean, everybody's getting their information from podcasts and new media. And I think that even traditional media sources, you're going to see Fox trying to roll out, podcasts with interesting people. Look at what's happened with Tucker. Look at what happened with his metrics when he went from Fox, #1 show, to shifting over to new media, aligning with Twitter's got some really interesting stuff coming, or X. So